Look, I'm not going to get anybody started here, but I really don't like the phrasing, "it's coming home." Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Women's Soccer Show. I'm Sarah.
And I'm Allie.
And we're talking Euros, and we've got a lot to talk about today.
Euros be crazy.
So, Allie, any highlights so far? I mean, I asked the obvious, just so everybody knows. We're recording this immediately after the England-Norway game.
So obviously, that is a huge highlight as an England fan. But just to be honest, just the great football that I'm seeing. It's just been amazing to sit and watch so much brilliant football from across Europe and to see these players that I've been excited about seeing, like, delivering even in games that you wouldn't think. So for example, the Iceland-Belgium game.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you were so pumped about that when you were watching the Iceland-Belgium game. You were texting me like, this is great, I'm having fun watching this.
And like the scoreline was 1-1, but the intensity of both teams, it was insane. Like, just to see that so that's what I'm really excited about, to see the absolute grand dame of women's football in Europe out there.
Over to the scorelines for match day 1, starting off in Group B. Spain beat Finland 4-1, and Germany beat Denmark 4-0.
And then over to Group C, it was tie city because Portugal and Switzerland tied 2-2, and the Netherlands and Sweden also tied 1-1.
Finally, closing off match day 1, Group D, Belgium and Iceland tied 1-1, and France beat Italy 5-1.
And then we move over to match day 2 for Group A. Austria beat Northern Ireland 2-0, and England beat Norway 8-0. Okay, so moving on to the first game that we are going to highlight, which is Germany versus Denmark. Now, Germany won this 4-0, remember, and this was a grudge match from the last Euros because Denmark knocked them out in the quarters, and both teams came out hard.
Usually in group games, especially in the first one, I feel like it takes a moment for teams to settle in, and just right off the bat, it was like foul, yellow card, opportunity, and it was a fun physical game. Germany kind of might pay for it. They got quite a few yellow cards right off from the start, but whatever, it was fun for us to watch, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. It was a great game. Germany, I thought, came out the strongest first. They were more physical, they were more fluid and flowing. Unlucky because the crossbar was like a great defender for Denmark.
It reminded me of the Gotham game when they hit the crossbar over and over and over again, but it was almost worse. Like, this was 9th minute crossbar, 3 minutes later crossbar, follow-up header, also hits the crossbar, follow-up shot goes wide, and it's like, you can't help but laugh. But Germany looked so good. I have to say, now that we've been through all of the group's first games, Germany had the strongest first performance overall of any team that I saw. But let's not forget that they actually went into halftime 1-0. And there was a moment when we went into halftime 1-0 when it really could have been anybody's game in the second half.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But I think, to be honest, for me, Denmark never got off the starting blocks. They had a very specific game plan, it felt, and a lot of it was to go through harder, and we'll talk about that later. And Germany worked that out very quickly and, like, stopped that. But we have to talk about the German goals when they did finally come. So that first half goal was against Magul, who is Helen's favourite player of the tournament. You can ask her why that is. But they should have been more on her, which they weren't, and just cut through that Danish defence.
Magul was player of the match for me, hands down. And you know, like, if she's player of the match, the best showing, I think, on the team that played the best, then absolutely she is a standout player of the tournament right now. I mean, yeah, it was a horrible, like, so this first goal that we're talking about, Denmark was playing out of the back from a goal kick, right? For some reason, their number 9, Brun, was dropped fully into the middle, and it was just a very sloppy pass back layoff from her, like outside of the foot, really weak. And Magul, who, credit to Magul, like, was working her butt off on defense up top, which is one of the reasons she's a blast to watch right now. Like, she's a blast to watch on offense, and she works her butt off on that high press on defense as well. And she benefits from it. She created that opportunity for herself, capitalized on that Denmark mistake. And you know what? That it looks like it's an easy finish because it's one-on-one against a goalkeeper. But that goal looks very small when you're in that position and the goalkeeper's coming out at you, arms out, and you have to try to tuck it away. So huge credit to her. She standout performance on Germany, and that goal was beautiful.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think between her and Schuller, you can tell they play together week in, week out in the German league, because they just had that relationship already and was playing together, because it was a goal that gave Schuller the assist for the second goal. And to be honest, with Germany, it was set piece after set piece after set piece. That seemed to be their absolute specialty, and they were so clinical with them and didn't wait. Like, you see a lot of times you'll see people waste corners and stuff like that. I'm thinking short corners that we've just seen in the Iceland-Belgium game, which was terrible. But they actually know what they're doing with them, and it was just such a the word clinical. The word of the day is clinical. They were just that clinical.
I mean, we were talking going into this tournament, we were like, well, Germany's hasn't showed so well in some friendlies, and they're a very young team, and how's this going to fare? Turns out, fantastic. They were so dynamic, and the connections that they've created, we called out Huth also to watch before this game. As a young player, plays in the Bundesliga. Like, this was a clinical performance individually and tactically, team-wise. It was German soccer. And I love watching the German national team. I always have, men's and women's, because I love how they play. And this was perfectly executed German soccer. Mwah. Chef's kiss.
And then also we have to talk about Denmark, because we mentioned it before. Well, I mentioned it before, that they seem to want to funnel all play through harder. That was like their game plan, which is fine, except for that's obvious. So therefore, Germany knew to crowd out harder, didn't let
So it's not actually fine.
What do you do? It's fine if people aren't going to work it out. But unfortunately, it's a very easy plan to work out.
If you have one of the best forwards in the world, you're obviously going to try to go through Pernille Harder, because she is one of the most dangerous players in the world. Their problem, unfortunately, is that she plays up top. And so if you're defending all the time, she's really not going to get the ball. And that's kind of what happened, in my opinion. Denmark has always played a 3-back. That's what they do. It's clearly what this team is designed for. Is there a world in which you think that they should maybe try a different formation at some point in this tournament if they just lost 4-0 to Germany?
It's not as big of a shock and a, oh my goodness, as say you were when Norway conceded 1 goal to Northern Ireland, where you were like, it's Northern Ireland for crying out loud. I don't think it's that, because Germany is Germany. They are one of the favourites. They are 8-time winners. They are big. Do I think they need to have a bit more of a game plan? Yes, because you're telling me that Finland aren't going to have watched that game back and gone, right, this is how we can get back into this tournament, by exploiting X, Y, and Z. So yes, they are going to have to change things up, because it's opened themselves up to so much, like, for the other teams to watch and go, all right, we've got the crack of Denmark now, and we can go from there. So yes, I do think they need to change the formation, but I don't think it's as big a disaster because they lost against Germany. Now, say if that scoreline had been against Finland, who are not up there in the top rankings for women's football, then yeah, you got a problem.
Now, yeah, I don't want to be a Debbie Downer, but first of all, I really don't think that they should change their formation. This is what they're built for. This is what they've played. You look at the players that they have on this team, and it fits, right? It's how they can best suit their style of play to the players, and etc. However, the Debbie Downer part of this is that I just have to say, like, this is the formation that works best. You have your best players out on the field, and I think this is just a classic case of, like, Denmark really hit their peak in getting to the finals in 2017. And I don't know, there's just not much more that they can change here. They're just not as good of a team. They just don't have as high of a ceiling as Germany does. And that's kind of it. Like, they'll play a team like Finland, and they will probably dominate, and their 3-4-3 will look fantastic, and Harder will get the ball a lot, and they'll maintain possession with the four midfielders, and it'll look great. And it's just a case of, if I was the coach, I don't know really what else you can do here. Just Germany was a better team.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But
I do.
Yeah, go on.
Oh yeah, I think we're going to say the same thing.
So yeah,
say it on 3. One. I can't. One, two, three. Christensen. Yeah. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Christensen, the Danish goalkeeper, I remember texting you in the first half being like, did any of us pick her for Golden Glove? Because, oh my God, the really big positive out of Denmark was Christensen. And I have to say, moving forward for Germany, the key was that they kept a clean sheet against Denmark, because the other game in this group was Spain versus Finland, and Spain won 4-1. So we're looking at this Germany-Spain game. We always have, right? And it's probably going to be the game that determines who advances in the number 1 spot and who advances in the number 2 spot. And if they draw, it's going to come down to goal differential. So this clean sheet was everything for Germany. And because we're not going to fully cover the Spain-Finland game right now, I was impressed by Spain's performance. Historically, Spain's Achilles heel has been scoring. They play beautiful soccer. They possess the ball the whole time, but they can't score a goal to save their life. And they put 4 away against Finland, and that bodes very well, even minus Alexia Putellas.
So that is Group B. The next games are Denmark versus Finland and Germany versus Spain, and that is happening right now on Tuesday. So then we're going to cut over to Group C. So Group C was the group of draws. So it was the group of draws. So we had Netherlands versus Sweden, which was a 1-1, and Portugal and Switzerland, which was a 2-2, which was the more surprising of the two results, to be honest.
We're going to cover Netherlands versus Sweden right now. But for a hot second, let's just talk about that Portugal-Switzerland game, because I had to do work, sadly, and missed the first half. And I was just getting an onslaught of texts from you being like, what? Like, what's happening? Like, this is crazy. This goal. That game was wild, unpredictably wild.
Yeah, exactly. Because for anybody who doesn't remember, Portugal were the wild card. They came in because they had to take out Russia in this thing. And so they weren't expected to get to the Euros. And so they got put into their group. Many people thought they would get absolutely hammered.
By everybody.
Because
they didn't qualify for the Euros. So to come back from a very early 2-0 deficit, which a lesser team would have just let their heads go down and everything else, to come back to 2-2 is really, really impressive. And I'm really excited to see what Portugal do next. So we're going to talk about the game that was on everybody's mind, which is the Netherlands versus Sweden. Oh, it's so delicious.
Yes.
It's so delicious. We usually have to wait so long to see matchups like this, and we got it in the first match day. Like, Come on.
Exactly. So we've all been excited about it. It is the Netherlands, who are the current defending champions of the Euros, versus Sweden, who are currently ranked 2nd in the world. So they are the highest ranked European team. And what a game it was. It lived up to everything that we wanted it to.
It really did. We got to talk about the first 20 minutes because, I don't even think there's one word for it, frankly. All I can really say is that probably for the first 20 minutes, my mind was not on soccer or the tactics at all. Because so the first 20 minutes, it was just injury after injury, and I feel so bad for the Netherlands right now.
I was going to say the poor Dutch, because it was all on them, to be honest. All these injuries seem to be on them. The big one, obviously, was Van Veenendaal, who's the goalkeeper. She's their first choice goalkeeper, and after 20 odd minutes had to be replaced due to a shoulder injury.
Yeah, so there was that one big collision in the box where it was, I believe it was Van Veenendaal and Van der Graat, so the goalkeeper and one of the key center backs for the Netherlands, and a Swedish forward who I don't remember which one it was, but it doesn't matter because she was okay. And they all collided, and I've got to say, Van Veenendaal was down for a while. They were looking at her shoulder, and she never came off the field. And then it was about 5 minutes later, she kicked the ball and was grasping her shoulder, and it seemed to be like it must have popped out of place, and they popped it back in, and then it popped back out, and she just couldn't continue. But Van der Graat, I have to spend a moment on this because, my goodness, that woman is concussed. And I'm sorry, like, I know I'm not a doctor. I wasn't there. I'm not checking her out. But as somebody, and I'm fired up about this because as somebody who has had so many concussions playing soccer. I know what a concussion looks like. I know what somebody who is concussed looks like. And that was a concussion. And the fact that she went back into the game after that, she looked fine. She played well. So, I mean, maybe she is okay. But I almost had to turn the game off because it was really, really painful to watch. And she just got smacked so hard. But yeah, so I mean, that happens. And then 10 minutes later, there's another collision. And the other center back, Nouwen, gets hurt and has to come off the field. So now we've got a 22-year-old goalkeeper in goal, an injured center back in Vandergrat, and then a left back who's been switched into the center back for the other injured center back, and a brand new left back. And that is basically how the Netherlands ended up playing the game.
So it is without any doubt that Sweden were on top for the first half just through that pantomime alone. But to give Sweden credit, they were very quick and fluid. I loved how they played. I thought they played some gorgeous football, the way they worked in with each other. Shout out to Aslani, who was one of the key playmakers for them.
I've got a bone to pick with Aslani.
Ooh.
Look, she is world class and she's just amazing with the ball at her feet. But pass the ball more. Pass the ball more. She is so dangerous, and I just think that she can do more for her team by being a little bit less predictable in her movements.
See, I disagree because yes, there were certain moments, but she made the big moments count. Not only did she get one of the first goal attempts in the first half, she also got the assist for Anderson's goal. So you can't argue.
That's fair. She did get the assist, but I think it was pretty ineffectual after that. Which, you know what? We'll see. The first goal, that was a beautiful goal. Back post, crossed by Aslani. Anderson on the back post headed it in. Was wide open, most likely due to all of those injuries we were just talking about. I think that overall Sweden has historically, I would say for the past 6 years, been that team that is incredibly good but can't finish a tournament. You look at the Olympics in Rio, they knocked the US out and couldn't really get to the finals, right? You look at even last year, hands down, they were the best team in the Olympics by a mile, and they get to the final and they just can't really finish it. And I would love for this tournament to be the thing that changes it for Sweden. They have everything that it takes. Their lineup is terrifying. They have the depth that teams like the Netherlands don't have. Like, you look at the bench players and who got subbed on there, and you're bringing on Blackstenius. Right? And then you've got, like, Jakobsen didn't even see the game. Like, she didn't even get on the field. That's how deep your bench is. And I just thought that the second half showed the Sweden that we've seen break down in previous tournaments, and that's kind of how they played in the second half. I still think that they are the best team in this tournament. The Netherlands are a class act. They are the reason. Their mentality is what shifted in the second half and what changed the game.
Absolutely. So they came out second half absolutely blasting. They were ready. They weren't ready to give up anything. You got to talk about Jill Rood, not just because of the goal, but the way she was in midfield was that was a masterclass.
It was a masterclass.
It was a masterclass of what to do if you are a midfielder. If you want to be a midfielder, you watch Jill Rood in this game.
Not to use Helen Hardy's words, but I'm a little horny thinking about that performance. I hope my parents don't listen to this episode.
But yeah, like, Jill Rood for me was the most beautiful case for midfield football, and like every aspiring midfielder should watch this game and watch Jill Rood because it was stunning.
I mean, I'll also call it Jill Rood obviously is the call out for the Netherlands. And I think that it's the combination of having Jill Rood and Spitz in as the number 6. Those two are veterans of the game, and you want to know it's specifically like why we talk about bringing that veteran presence and why it's so important. I truly think that they are the reason this mentality shifted for the Netherlands. Because when your back line goes down like it did, it's really helpful to know that in the midfield, in the line right in front, you've got two just even-keeled ballers, frankly. Like, I'm not explaining this well. It's because I'm so excited. Their experience, their mentality, they were my two standouts. And it's not a surprise that the two extremely experienced players on this team were the players of the match for the Netherlands. And it's because that's really who they needed to bring them through it.
So the game was basically won and lost in midfield. I thought both the Dutch and Swedish midfield were everything. But I want to ask you, actually, because something that's keep coming up, and I rewatched the game in prep for this, which was, you've already mentioned your despair at Aslani. Let's talk about the other number 9, which was Viv. I barely remembered that she was on the pitch in that game, to be honest.
She was invisible. And it's kind of like the plight of Vivianne Miedema at Arsenal too. I've tried for so long to put my finger on what it is with her. Like, is it a mentality thing? Or is it simply that maybe Vivianne Miedema plays best on the wing? And I just don't think that she is best at the number 9. She doesn't get the ball at her feet that much. She is the most dangerous when, kind of like Rose Lavelle, like she is at her most dangerous when she has the ball at her feet and she's running at somebody. That's when I'm terrified of Vivianne Miedema. Not when she gets the ball with her back to the goal or when there's a cross and she's trying to put her head on it. Obviously, she's great in the air, but that's not her most dangerous. And so I think it might just be this isn't her best position. And you almost saw her trying to play how she did at the end of the season with Arsenal, trying to come back into like the number 10 and get the ball just so she could try to make more happen. And she was invisible in the game, unfortunately. Well, but so another tie, we were just talking about Group B and how it's probably going to come down to the Germany versus Spain game to see who advances, right? We were talking about Group C, this group, and knowing that this first match would be the one to really decide who advances. And now it's come out as a draw. And so everything is going to come down to the next 2 games. And what a blast this is, because every single team is sitting at 1 point right now. It is literally tied top to bottom.
And it could go absolutely any which way.
It can go anywhere. And one mistake from the Netherlands or Sweden against a team like Portugal, who's super unpredictable, and that could be what determines everything.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So the next games in Group C are Sweden versus Switzerland and the Netherlands versus the aforementioned Portugal, and that is happening tomorrow on Wednesday.
Have you checked out Total Football Analysis yet? TotalFootballAnalysis.com provides researched analysis on loads of football games, including women's football. Want to know why Miedema scores so many goals? Do you want to explore how City have turned it around this season? Head over to TotalFootballAnalysis.com and sign up to learn more about the beautiful game. We have a special discount for listeners of the Women's Soccer Show. At checkout, type WOSO10 to get a full year for €10. That's €40 off the yearly subscription. Head over to TotalFootballAnalysis.com and type WOSO10 at checkout.
Let's go around the world, around the world. So if everybody will remember, around the world mainly is going to consist of NWSL right now because we're in Euros coverage and they're the only league in play.
Absolutely. So we go to that NWSL. Big games and matchups around the league this weekend. The classic Seattle-Portland rivalry ended in a 2-2 draw, but pulled a record attendance at Seattle Stadium. The newly budding rivalry between the expansion teams LA and San Diego ended in a 2-1 win for the home side of Angel City and featured a rarity of a red card. Angel City scored first with Ali Riley putting one away in the first 10 minutes, and then San Diego equalised. The game was 1-1, but Tyler Lucy drew a straight red card, only for Angel City to put away the winning goal 2 minutes later, down by 1 player.
Staying in the U.S. and over to the U.S. women's national team, the U.S. women's national team have officially qualified for the Women's World Cup in 2023 after just 2 games in CONCACAF. So book your tickets, everybody. We're going to Australia and New Zealand. Let's go.
So, to the final game recap of this jam-packed episode. We thought it was going to be the France-Italy game with that insane game with 5 goals in the first half for France. But then England basically said, France, hold my beer. So we're going to talk about the England versus Norway 8-0 stunner. We have to. We don't want to just be an England-centric podcast because obviously I'm one of the hosts. But when a game like that crops up, you have to talk about it. So that's what we're going to do.
We have to kick it off by saying England scored, it was 6-0 at half.
Yeah.
It was 6-0 at half. Oh my goodness. And we have to start by talking, and we'll get into the Norway of it by kicking it off. In the 10th minute, there was a foul in the box on Ellen White. It was 0-0. It was called a penalty. Georgia Stanway buried that penalty.
Yep, great penalty.
England goes up 1-0, and it seems like that, frankly, the momentum just got swept away with England and Norway. I think before they could even blink an eye, we're down by 3 goals already, right? So let's talk about that penalty kick for a second because we have to. I was deeply upset on behalf of Norway, and I even texted you like, this referee, as somebody who went into this game wanting to root for England, this referee made me start pulling for Norway for a moment because I was like, this is a horrible call. Now, at some point, you have to say, this isn't the ref's fault. This is Norway's fault, right? Because it's on them to get their mentality back together. This is the Euros, and you have an experienced, brilliant team that should be able to put themselves back together after you concede a goal, after you concede 2 or even 3 goals, really, and they didn't. So it's on Norway as well. So we have to talk about Thea Stoutier, who is the one who pulled Ellen White in the box. Also, huge culprit for the 3rd goal that got put away by England.
Almost gave a 4th goal before the 4th goal was scored.
Exactly. Let's just talk about Norway's defense. Let's get it out of the way, and then let's do the fun stuff.
So, defensively, they were... I'm not even going to say that they were... I mean, because an 8-0 does seem like they're poor. I'm not even going to say that they were poor. I'm going to say that they were disorganised, and also... there was no imagination. I think that was their biggest flaw. There was no imagination because they got...
Imagination on defense? What do you mean?
Well, for example, they've been told how to play. They got told as a back four how they were going to play. You can see that they had a game plan. After the 3rd goal, even the 4th goal, when they've been nicked twice in exactly the same way, which is up the flank with a cross, that's happened to you 4 times now. 3 if you don't include the penalty. You would have the creation and go, all right, we need to go off book. We need to do something else because this is not working. And they did not. It was like...
Well, that's on the coach, I think, to do something, to go off book because...
Yeah, but surely if you're seeing that the coach is not doing anything, if the coach is not changing players, is not doing subs early on, then it's up to you as a player to go, right, we need to figure something out because it basically, I put in my notes, it was like a Roadrunner cartoon. It was the same thing happening over and over again.
Yeah. They put their heads down and you saw them take themselves out of the game mentally. Emma Hayes is on, the pregame and halftime, studio commentary here. And she called it, I'm going to quote, amateur defense. And frankly, that's the only way to describe it because of how disorganized they were. There was so much space for England. So much space. And when there's that much space for the other team, it's because you are disorganized. You're disorganized within your lines, meaning there's too much space between the left back and the center back, between the 2 center backs, between the center back and the right back. And there's also too much space between your lines. And that's exactly what was happening. I'm going to call out specifically the left back, Blackstead.
Yeah, who is not a defender. She's a great player, but she is not a defender.
I mean, that's a great point just across the board for Norway. Most of Norway's back line is not... They are not defenders. Maren Mjelde is playing center back she plays on the outside midfield at Chelsea.
I was going to say she's a midfielder.
She's not even a center midfielder, really.
No, she's a sort of winger.
And this is kind of intrinsic to how Norway has historically played, and it's not just in this Euros. They've got a lot of great talent that they play really out of position across the board. But anyways, Blackstad, the left back, was getting absolutely picked apart by Beth Mead, by everybody on the right side. And, you know, this is not taking any credit away from Beth Mead or England, because we're going to talk about them in a second. But I feel for Norway, this was a bigger mental loss, I think, than anything. This was because they're better than this. They're all together as a team and individually. Norway is a better team than they just showed. And so the simple fact is that this was a mental collapse, and how they return to the field versus Austria is going to determine everything.
Yeah. On a side note, I think Austria are going to do it, you know?
Yeah. And you look at their mentality, like they're having fun in their locker room. They just won. They seem like they're on a high, and Norway looks like they are deep, deep in the trenches right now. You want to do it? You want to kick it off?
Yeah. Let's talk about the fun stuff. So we're going to talk about what went right for England, because so much went right.
Pretty much everything went right.
Yeah. I mean, it could have been more. If Ellen White had connected when she should have done.
Ellen White has 2 goals, and you're still.
She could have got 4,
like,
man.
Come on, you could have had more.
She could have had
Classic
4.
English fan.
She could have had 4.
You're like, look at her conversion percentage. It wasn't 100%. She
No,
could have done.
It was
more.
only 50%.
Classic English soccer fan. Come on. I saw a great tweet. I mean, the tweet's not important, but it was really calling out the like British media and basically saying like, hey, England media, if this turns into a big scoreline, do not start talking about sportsmanship. And I just started laughing because I was like, every U.S. women's national team fan is utterly scarred.
Yep.
And anytime we see a scoreline start to run up, we're like, oh my God, what's going to happen?
It's the Thailand game all over again. But yeah,
anyways,
enough about you Yanks.
8 goals. Beth Mead gets a hat trick. Ellen White gets 2 pulled off before she gets the 3rd. So, you know, screw Ellen White. She didn't play well, according to you.
That's not what I said.
I'm just kidding.
We all know how much I love Ellen.
Let's talk about it from the beginning, because before this game, I texted you and said, sticking with the 4-3-3, right? Because we talked about formation last time and how maybe it would have been more beneficial to switch back to the 4-2-3-1 with the 2 6s. That's not what they did. Stuck with the 4-3-3. And I mean, that was a pretty convincing statement for the 4-3-3, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. I was a bit nervous that there'd been no squad changes after the Austria game. I thought they might want to, like we said, either change formation or maybe bring Greenwood on instead of Daly, just to give Daly the rest, and it's because she picked up a couple of knocks in the Austria game, so I was very concerned. You're right, the turning point was that penalty. As soon as we got that penalty, England were absolutely flying, and no player put in a bad performance, from the starting 11 to the subs that got brought on. Like, every player slotted in perfectly. There was no like teething problems and stuff like that. It was just beautiful. I have to shout out the 2 flanks. I have to shout out Hempo and Mido. Both of them were absolutely
outstanding.
Yeah, it was just a masterclass. Beth Mead's 2nd goal is just
watching Beth Mead, and oh my God, like watching Beth Mead is watching somebody at the ultimate peak of her game right now. She's at the peak of her game, and it is so fun to watch. If you're not,
we talked about Rood earlier, but Mido is something else.
I mean, I said Jill Rood makes me horny, and frankly, I guess Beth Mead does too. Really just giving it away all over the place here.
But it was just something beautiful. It's something that you've said.
It was gorgeous. And her runs off the ball were just absolutely stunning. I just have to call that out, because when we say she's at the top of her game, we're not just talking about scoring, not just like everything. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
I was saying this to my other half. It felt like a grown-up England performance because we're seeing some of the younger players doing things that are much better and more mature. So, for example, we're seeing Georgia Stanway pass more. We're seeing that she's not just shooting from the box because she can. We're seeing things like Ellen White, instead of trying to get the goal herself, did that beautiful layup to Hemp, who passed it on for Mead to get the header for her first goal. We're seeing a more mature England, and I can't help but think it has to be to do with Serena. It has to be to do with Workman.
I was going to say, what we're seeing is an England squad with a good coach.
With a coach that cares. A coach that actually cares about football.
And can get the best out of her squad. Like, it's a big deal when your squad trusts their coach like it seems these players really do, and trust that these moves are correct and these subs are correct and so on and so forth. This, for me, I said it in our last episode that I think it's England and Sweden are the two best teams in this tournament. This is the terrifying England squad that I knew we would see in this tournament. And this team absolutely can win this tournament. So we're talking about subs, and let's get into like the run of the game in a second. But we're talking about subs for a second, and I have to just say, I think a lot of people have been questioning why Ellen White has been getting the start after a very long goal drought that obviously ended today. And going into this game, I was thinking, I think that either a different formation, or Fran Kirby was looking pretty weak in the last game. Maybe put Tooney on for Kirby, but I would not take Ellen White out right now. She has proven herself time and time again, and that counts for something. And you were just saying they're a young squad that's growing up. And, we say so many times how effective the balance is. Ellen White is a class act. And I just need to shout out her performance today, because when she scored that first goal of hers, that celebration, like, I felt it in my soul. Like, when she did that, like, 2-foot stomp in front of everybody, I was like,
it was intense. It was amazing.
That meant something to her, and that opened the floodgates. And Ellen White is here, like, and every team in this tournament playing England should be scared now, because Ellen White can do damage.
There is a reason she has got that 9 on her back. She is an out-and-out 9, and you need that, just at least in the first half. Like, they took her off after 60 minutes, I think, and that was the right call, because then we're giving Russo a chance to get more than just a couple of minutes under a belt.
It was the same subs as it was last game.
No, they changed Greenwood for Daly instead of Kelly. Kelly came on later.
Oh, you're very right. You're very right. Okay, well, it was the same subs plus 1.
Plus 2, because Jill Scott came on, but...
That's true. Oh, we didn't even we haven't even come on to that. That was a beautiful moment. But just to comment on the subs, it was great to see them get a run of play. It was great to see some of them get... Alessia Russo got that goal. That's really important, to get them on the field feeling comfortable, get their swagger on, Yeah.
Tooney was creating chance after chance after chance, like... was absolutely a brilliant number 10, Tooney, as we know that she can be. I thought Greenwood slotted in really well for Daly. Daly obviously took a couple of knocks and needed to come off, but you didn't notice the difference. Like, Greenwood was again pinging them in the box, and just, it was just beautiful. It was just beautiful.
That was a complete game across the board. And my one concern, so England went into half 6-0, and my one concern was, I just want them to stay sharp in the second half. You have to stay sharp mentally so that you can continue this momentum through the second half and into the next game, because that's really what matters in a tournament. You need to keep that momentum. And while their scoring did halt a little bit, they put 2 away in the second half, I felt like they still stayed sharp throughout the subs coming on, which is hard, and everything. And that's a big credit to them that they were able to do that. They stayed, it was a complete game across the board for all 90 minutes.
Yep, they still had the majority of the possession. They still managed to I think Norway had 1 shot on target and 4 shots overall, and that's across the game. So, like, somebody said, Mary Earps didn't have much to do. Like, and she's like, no, she was commanding her back line, but to be honest, she could have probably cooked a whole roast dinner and just...
Yeah, she didn't have much to do. That's fine. She'll be busy later on. Don't worry, everybody.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm just looking at these like possession stats now, and it is crazy. So it was England had 64% of the possession, 25 shots, 15 shots were on target compared to 36% possession, 4 shots, 1 shot on target.
To me, that doesn't even tell the story of how dominant the game was. Like, that makes it seem less dominant than it truly was. Norway could barely put any form of an attack together, if really they could. And yeah, a class showing for England. They are through officially to the quarterfinals, so book your tickets, everybody. The only way this is really going to change is if something wild happens, right? So right now, England will play Northern Ireland next. If they win, which frankly they should, they will get the full 9 points and advance in the number 1 spot. And it is down to the Austria versus Norway game to see who advances in the second spot, because right now they both sit at 3 points.
Unfortunately, that does mean that Northern Ireland are out because they both can't lose, Austria and Norway. So unfortunately, that does mean that Northern Ireland are out. Currently, Austria are in second because they've got a positive goal difference compared to the -5.
That Norway just accrued, obviously. Quickly on the Northern Ireland note, sad news out of the Northern Ireland camp. Simone McGill did her ACL before Monday's game, and so we will not see her for the rest of the tournament. But, you know, stunning tournament, stunning first senior tournament for Northern Ireland. They are a gritty team. What is it in the Hunger Games? We have the first cannon that goes off. And we have the 3 fingers up for Northern Ireland, and we say thank you very much.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And they've got more to come. I feel it that they've got more to come in other tournaments.
And we've got more to come. So everybody, you're listening to this on Tuesday, maybe not, but it's dropping on Tuesday. And Tuesday matchups, as we've already kind of highlighted, we've got Denmark versus Finland in Group B, and then the big matchup of Germany versus Spain, which will probably decide who advances in the number 1, number 2 spot, or it'll be a draw. We'll see, but it'll be a really fun game. And the rest of match day 2 coming up this week. We are back on Friday to cover it all.
Yeah. So where else would you go for your wonderful Euros coverage?
Nowhere, just here. And for the Women's Soccer Show, I've been Sarah.
And I've been Allie.
Thanks, everybody. See you Friday.
Good night.